Hey folks, some of you had seen my review of the Gerber shard recently, and some folks had seen this same tool on my Instagram account, a few photos of it on there, and I've had a few requests for a how-to or a description of how to do this wrap of paracord that I've got on here. Now this wasn't any, there was no special method to this or anything. I simply took out a little length of paracord, actually several lengths, and tried wrapping it a few different ways, and this one's really one of the most basic. If you go online and you look up the Gerber shard and paracord, you'll find a lot of folks have some fancier wraps, but this one's really simple but effective. I think that it makes the grip on the shard a little bit more manageable. It's a little bit chunkier this way, so it is bulkier, but it's more comfortable, and I think that it helps you get a little bit better of a grip on the tool. And so it's just something, I did it for a little bit of an embellishment, just a little bit of flair, or to look interesting, but also to make the tool a little bit more comfortable, as it is a little bit narrow and can be a little bit jagged at the corners. So I'm going to go ahead and unwrap this, and then I'm going to start with a fresh piece of paracord, and I will show you just how I did this very basic wrap on the Gerber shard. So stay tuned, I'll be right back in the next segment. Okay, so here we go. This is pretty much everything that you're going to need in order to wrap your Gerber shard. First things first, you're going to need some paracord. You could probably use some other type of cord, but 550 paracord is going to work pretty well. This one is not gutted, so this still has the inside. The wrap that you've seen me do, it still has the inner strands included. So you could probably remove those if you wanted a flatter appearance, but since I wanted to add a little bit more chunk and grip to the shard, I left the insides intact. This is 12 inches, 1 foot of paracord. This is a little bit longer than you're going to need. In fact, you're going to end up cutting about 2 inches off, but you'll see in a moment why you want just a little bit of slack left on, so you have something to pull on the ends. You're also going to need a lighter to melt the ends of the paracord, and then a small pair of pliers or tweezers or something. The little Leatherman tools or a nice pair of pliers you might already have, needle nose, is going to be good, and that'll give you something you can get a nice grip on the paracord and tighten it with, which you'll need to do for a really tight and even appearance of the paracord on the shard. And that's pretty much it. You're also going to need scissors or a knife, something to cut the ends of the paracord, and so that's why if you have a little multi-tool handy, you can always use that. And what I do, you can see right here, both of the ends of this paracord are already pre-melted. They're pre-fused, and the reason I do that, even though this isn't the finished product, is because I don't like when they start to fray and flare at the ends. So whenever I cut paracord for a project, I'm always going to melt it. It's one extra step, but it saves me from losing length on the paracord and having it messy and fuzzy and in the way. And I also don't like when the ends turn kind of blackish. I like them to look kind of clean, and it's easier to keep them clean if it hasn't flared and spread out at the ends a lot. So you basically take your shard and you're going to take your paracord, and then the way that you're going to wrap this is you're going to put one end of the paracord, it's going to kind of stick up, and I'm kind of doing this from memory, so forgive me if I slip up a little bit here, but you're going to put one end sticking a little bit up the way of the lanyard hole. The other end's going to pull through the bottle opener portion. See, I'm kind of wrapping it through there. Come up through the lanyard hole at the other end, and then it's going to cross. And this is just a quick little visual so you can see what the cord's doing there. So you've got that little end sticking out. In fact, I'm going to pull up even a little bit more, so I've got a little bit more slack right there. And pull it kind of tight. I'm going to start my wrap right there, and then this is pretty much all there is to this wrap. It's going to be really basic. So I've got that going. I'm actually going to leave a little bit of that sticking up in the front as best as I kind of can underneath. Just a little bit of slack. And then wrap it once, twice. I think this is going to end up being 4 wraps on one side. Let's see. Yeah, there we go. And now you're left with this little end here. So we've got our nice tight little wrap there. And then this end needs to go under here, and that's why we wanted to leave a little bit of slack. And what you can do is grab whatever your little plier tool is, pull on this end a little bit to bring it up. So now we've got a little bit of a gap under there. And then I'm going to take this end and feed it underneath. And forgive me if this is going to kind of come out sloppy or look a little bit screwy or convoluted. It's kind of tough doing this through the viewfinder of my camera. When you do this by yourself, it's going to go a lot faster. So I've got a little bit of slack sticking out that end, some out this end. Once I've got those in place, and that's pretty much the finished wrap, I'm going to pull on each end to sort of tighten it. So I'm going to give that one a good yank. Give this one the same treatment. Nice tight pull. And now our cord's pretty much tight all the way around. This is really the entirety of the wrap that you saw on my Gerber shard earlier. And that's pretty much it. It could be a little bit tighter because I'm doing this behind the camera. This isn't coming out quite as perfect as I'd like it to. It's got a little bit of give to it. I can kind of scooch the cord around a little bit, but you'll find when you do this yourself up close and personal, you'll have a lot easier time getting it nice and taut. So I've got the ends pulled nice. I'm done with that. I am going to bust out the little scissors on here. I'm going to cut both of these pretty short, but I'm going to leave a little bit at the end, and that's because we're going to melt it. And it's going to kind of, you want it to kind of flare or widen at the end just a tiny bit so it doesn't really want to slip back through. So we'll cut that there. We have our lighter here. I'm going to go ahead and light the ends of the paracord. I try not to get too close because, again, I don't like when it burns, when it has that discolored look to it. So I'll heat that up pretty good. Don't worry too much about heating up the shard, it'll be okay. And then you can kind of smush it either with your lighter or with your fingers. I usually will use my fingers, but since I can't see that well to do this, I'm just going to use the lighter. And then that end's done. That should stay underneath that side of the wrap pretty well. I'll give this one more good tug on this end. And then we'll do the same thing. I'm just going to cut this pretty short. Just like that. Just got a little, whatever that is, 1/4 of an inch, maybe a little bit less. And then we're going to light that. Let that melt down a little bit, and then press that in with my lighter. And you can see it's nice and clean. It doesn't have any of that black or brown burnt stuff to it, which we don't really want. And there you have it. There is your paracord wrapped Gerber shard. Again, there are much more fancy wraps that you can do on this, but this one's really basic. It's really easy. It doesn't take a lot of time, and I think it looks really good when it's done. Gives you a little bit extra grip, a little extra purchase, and a little bit of fun added to your normally pretty plain and ordinary Gerber shard. So there you have it, the It's a Wonderful Knife non-patented paracord wrap for a Gerber shard. Thank you folks so much for watching, and I hope you all have a great day. Talk to you soon. Bye.